With the end of the NFL season comes coaching changes. Playoffs finally are here. That was your cue. Playoffs?
Playoffs.
Okay, finally. Bryce and Billy here. We're going to hit the NFC side of the playoffs this past weekend. We're going to start with the Lions and Saints, which, when you watch the first half of this game, it looked, wow, Detroit might actually do
Yes,
this.
yes, I was happy. I picked Detroit, and I was like, "That's right, I'm amazing." And
And
then I looked like
yeah,
an idiot.
then basically Drew Brees and the Saints came out like LSU did against Georgia
Yeah,
in the SEC championship.
yep.
So,
More Giants against
okay,
Falcons.
yeah, yeah. We'll hit that later. Matthew Stafford though had an outstanding game: 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. I
Mhm.
mean that hurts. Calvin Johnson had a monstrous game.
Monster game.
What only 6 people have ever caught 200 yards passing in a playoff game.
And only 6 people, 7 later that night. 2 of them were in one wild card round. This round, Demarius Thomas had 200 yards receiving, and Calvin Johnson had 200 yards receiving, and that's ridiculous. Only 6 people before that had over 200 yards receiving.
211 yards, 2 touchdowns for Calvin Johnson. Had a monstrous game. Couple stats to go over. In home games, New Orleans averaged 41 points a
That is
game,
ridiculous.
507 yards
That
offense.
is bonkers. That's like Xbox 360. It's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Road teams indoors were 6-20 right now in playoffs. In his career versus Detroit, Drew Brees has 14 touchdowns versus 1 pick.
How can you play against that?
And then for Detroit, and I'm sorry, Detroit fans, but in the past half century, Detroit is 1-10 in the postseason.
I'm surprised they have that one. That surprised me.
The final score, of course, 45-28. I mean, Drew Brees just had a monster game, 466 yards,
When
three
he's
touchdowns,
indoors, he is the best quarterback in the NFL.
and we'll hit that later because Drew Brees is not going to be endorsed next week
No, he
against the
will
San
not.
Francisco
He'll be on
49ers.
grass.
Falcons versus Giants
Nothing I know.
in probably one of the worst games the Falcons could have played all season long. I mean, just a complete zero. I
Yep.
mean,
Well, no, two.
2 points.
Yeah,
Okay.
deuce. They scored a deuce.
The Falcons
They
actually
played
picked
like a
up
deuce
a
too.
they picked up a safety against the Giants, but the Giants just completely outplayed them. They were completely outcoached. Mike Smith went for 2 4th and
Stupid.
shorts, which they
At
could
the
have just
beginning
kicked
of the
field
game,
goals.
when they needed points, idiotic. What was he doing? I don't. I'm not even a Falcons fan. I was yelling at the screen like, "What are you doing?"
Aren't you glad you weren't
It's
here at the house
ridiculous.
with
Yeah,
me?
yeah. That was just. I'm not even a Falcons fan. I was just in utter bewilderment. Like, how did you get a coaching job? I know not to do that.
Matt Ryan went 24-41 for 199 yards. Still kind of respectable for a playoff game, even though he's now 0-3 in the playoffs as a starter.
Mhm.
Eli Manning, on the other hand, 23 of 32, 277 yards and 3 touchdowns
Yep, that's a Super Bowl
against
winner.
a depleted Falcons secondary. I mean, you have to say it. They were
The Falcons secondary though is better than the Giants secondary, and Eli exploited the Falcons
true.
secondary more than Matt Ryan ever dreamed about doing in that
Tony
game.
Gonzalez, who is the number 2 receiver in the NFL all time right now, 0-5 in the playoffs.
And
And
he thought the move to Atlanta was gonna get him that Super Bowl ring, and why wouldn't you think that with all the weapons they have there? But they just can't mesh. I mean, all they have is Turner in the backfield, and they don't. In my humble opinion, they don't play Snelling or Quez enough. I think they run Turner way too much. I think they rely on him way too much, and they drafted Julio Jones to be that explosive wide receiver, and at times he has been, but
64 yards in the game. He actually
that's
was the
that's
leading receiver for
that's
the
not even
Falcons.
nearly enough. For what all they traded away from him, I don't care that it is his rookie year. That's not even nearly enough. He should have been over the century mark. Roddy White should have been near the century mark. And Harry Douglas should have had over 50 yards receiving. They should have aired that ball out more in the second half when they realized Turner running the ball wasn't going to work.
On Monday following the game, Van
Van
Gorder
Gorder
Van
left.
Gorder left and is now taking the defensive coordinator's job at Auburn.
I don't understand that at all.
Mike Mularkey has been offered, or not offered, but he's been interviewing with the Jacksonville
Hmm.
Jaguars. He's also was in with the Rams too. The Rams have
Rams.
asked
Um,
permission by the Falcons.
and I saw a report today on the way home that he was going to interview for the Dolphins. I don't know. how much truth there is to that, but I did read a report that said he was asked for an interview with the Dolphins.
Final stat under the Falcons Giants game. Under Mike Smith, the Falcons are 43 and 21 in the regular season. Actually, an incredible number.
Hmm.
It really is. And 0 and 3 in the postseason. When Matt Ryan starts at quarterback, they're 26 and 4 at home and 17 and 16 on the road. It's just a really rough number. Matt Ryan's got an outstanding home record, but you have to
You got to
play at
ask
home.
yourself: is Matt Ryan your quarterback in the future?
I, are you asking me as an analyst or as a
I'm
fan?
asking you as an analyst because I know as a fan he is a terrific, solid quarterback. As an analyst,
As an
what is your opinion? What is
analyst,
your opinion?
as an analyst, I think you got probably 1 to 2 more years to see what he can do.
I agree.
I think he needs to
I
really
agree.
show what he can do. Plus, he's probably going to be in the 1 to 2 more years what's left on his rookie
Yeah,
quarterback on his contract.
I agree.
So,
100%.
as a
I
fan,
think the Falcons have two roads here. The Falcons can because in my humble opinion, I don't believe Matt Ryan will ever be an elite quarterback. I think he'll be good. I think he'll be a Philip Rivers type quarterback. He'll be good. He'll be solid. Maybe get one or two playoff wins down the road. He will never be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think the Falcons have two roads they can go down right now. They can accept what they have right now in Matt Ryan. They can sign him for a big quarterback and be a good team the rest of his career and possibly a great team once or twice every 10 years. Or they can dump him and try to start from the ground up. That's a completely rebuilding. The Falcons fans already are not happy with not winning a playoff, and rebuilding the team under around a new quarterback is going to add at least 2 to 3 more years on to them actually
mm,
going through a good playoff push. So it's a real finicky situation right now that Thomas Dimitroff is in.
as a Falcons fan, I see the allure of
Hmm.
Matt Ryan, but I think I'm actually kind of in step with my analyst
Hmm.
mind. Is I think 1 to 2 more years the Falcons really need to pay attention.
Hmm.
Um, and don't forget, Arthur Blank said at the beginning of the season or at the end of last season when the Falcons got stomped by Green Bay that you know one and done in the playoffs isn't okay.
Absolutely not. Nope. Absolutely not. Not for that team.
Other news and notes from the NFL: Chargers have fired defensive coordinator Greg Minusti. He allowed 23.6 points per
It's
game.
quality. That's good coaching right there. It's amazing.
It's an easy fire.
Yeah.
Penn State has hired Patriots offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien. He
I didn't know he
will
was
finish.
Catholic.
He
Makes
will
sense now.
finish the rest of
Fits
the
in
season
perfectly.
out with the Patriots with their game against the Broncos this season or this week. Patriots also hired Josh McDaniels as offensive assistant for the rest of the playoffs since Bill O'Brien's the OC, and will name him OC at the end of the season.
Hmm.
Raiders hire Packers director of football operations Reggie McKenzie as general manager, and his first order of business: Hugh Jackson,
Bye bye.
bye.
I don't blame him on that one.
He was 8-8 as in his first and only season as head
Do you
coach.
know in the past 8 Raiders coaches, none of them had lasted more than 3 years? And
Not
then you
surprised.
go to look at this. Look at this model of franchises in the NFL. Oakland. Do you associate with winning anymore? The
Nope.
Raiders. You don't associate with them with winning. Past 8 coaches, none of them have lasted over 3 years. Do you associate the Pittsburgh Steelers with winning?
Yes.
They've had 3 coaches in the past 56, 58 years, something like that.
Hmm.
Consistency is the key in the NFL.
Kansas City Chiefs have taken the interim tag off of Romeo Crennel. He has now officially been named the head coach for the season. He
Good. He deserved it. He earned it.
2-1 after he took over for Todd Haley when he got
Beat
fired.
the Packers too. Big win.
Two-time Pro Bowl Derek Mason has announced that he is retiring. He had 943
He
catches,
was good.
1200 or 12,000 passing or receiving yards, and 66 touchdowns.
He was good, man.
I'm not sure if he'll be a Hall of Famer, but he was
He was good.
close.
Yeah, he's one of those players that you remember when we're 70 years old. You say Derek Mason. Very good. Very solid, reliable wide receiver.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers are interviewing Marty Schottenheimer. Wade Phillips has
Oh,
been
don't
named
go down
into it.
that road.
Brad Childress and Mike Sherman are also considered candidates.
They ought to interview a new quarterback.
Marty Schottenheimer is 205 wins, 139 losses. Pretty good record.
Hmm.
The Broncos Steelers game from last week earned the highest TV rating, which was a 24 for a wild card game in 18 years, and the highest TV rating in an AFC wild card game in 23
I didn't
years.
know they had TVs in heaven.
Oh gosh.
I was unaware of this.
Me doing the NFC show, I was like, I don't have to talk about Tim Tebow. This is good. And then I get my notes and I'm like, Tim Tebow set the sports tweets per second record this week with 9,420 per second, surpassing the Women's World Cup final,
That is
which was
redonkulous.
7,196.
I'm glad we have a real sport, not a women's sport, setting the record for that.
Can we move on past the Tim Tebow thing now?
No,
Okay.
no. Tebow is the NFL. Where have you been?
Saints at the 49ers in a big game on
Huge game.
Saturday. The 49ers are the number 2 seed. They've been playing well all season long. Up until week 16, they had only allowed one rushing
Yep.
touchdown, and apparently allowed two. They've allowed three rushing touchdowns all season
They have
long.
collapsed.
Yeah, I mean,
Collapsed.
just collapsed the past couple of
Completely.
games. However, they're going up against the Saints offense, who has nothing to do with the rush, and even though they're the number one rushing defense. So you have to think the Saints probably going to have a good portion of their way with it.
Probably not. They're outside, buddy. Saints have not played well outside this year. You look at their stats, you look at their records and everything, have done amazing indoors, and every now and then have done decently outside. But on the whole, outside, the Saints have not done well, and the Saints do play off the run very heavily. Look at the way they set up their play action. Look at the way they set up their wide receivers deep for Drew Brees. They draw those linebackers in. Drew Brees is not a tall guy. He has to find those passing lanes. They draw those linebackers in with the short 3-4 pops by their running backs, and then they throw it out. If they can't get that 3 or 4 yard pop, and they're playing outside, which they do not play well in, watch for the 49ers to pull a surprise upset on this. I know Saints are favored by 4. I'm gonna have to go with 49ers in the points on this, man. I like Gore and that defense in this situation at home against the Saints.
Saints haven't done very well against a steady rushing diet from the opponent. Um, Basically, what San Francisco's game plan should be, hand it to Gore a lot
Hmm.
because you're going to run the clock down as much as you can. You can actually throw the ball occasionally, but Gore should see a good bit of touches in this game. The Saints, on the other hand, I think their game plan is short, crisp passes across the center, do slant routes, do something to mess up their linebacking core because their
Hmm.
linebacking core is going to be moving up because they're so focused on the run,
Hmm.
and they're going to be looking at Darren Sproles and Pierre Thomas,
Hmm.
who had believe 66 yards and a touchdown last week. So I mean, you have to think this. I'm taking the Saints in this game with the points.
I'm taking the Steelers. Yeah, I'm taking the Niners. I'm gonna have to
Steelers aren't in anymore.
I'm gonna have to take the Niners in this game just because I like the defense. I like the way that Alex Smith has come in and been a game manager, and I like the way Gore runs, man. I can't bet on the Saints outdoors. The Saints have never won a road playoff game in the history. Aside from the Super Bowl, the Saints have never won a road playoff game.
Giants are facing off against the Packers, the number one seed versus the number 4 seed. The Packers are just sitting at home,
Hmm.
waiting,
Yep.
bated breath.
Aaron
Uh,
Rodgers is just sitting there, just breaking down that
I mean,
defense.
you had to know that he was watching this past weekend when the Falcons just couldn't do
He didn't get
anything.
much tips from Matty Ice this week,
Yeah,
though.
but you have to think he watches that defense on a regular basis.
Oh, he
So
knows how to break it down.
it's going to be a real easy game, I think, for the Packers to actually move past Eli. Even though it was a really close game the first time, it was what 35-31
Hmm.
final. It was a really, really close, intense game. Um, I think, like Alabama, Georgia or Packers were learn from their mistakes
Hmm.
that they gave up those many points to
Yep.
Eli and the Giants, and they're going to probably shut them down.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Packers on this one. The Giants' defense have not looked good all season long. You look at they've consistently given up over 300 and 400 total yards to the other team, and you give Aaron Rodgers time like that to throw the ball,
Need some water, buddy?
no chance. Yeah, this sinus cold, man, it's been killing me. But yeah, the Packers have to take this. Aaron Rodgers has been sitting there breaking down film for the past 2 weeks. He's known he's gonna face the
3 weeks,
Giants.
really. I mean,
Yeah,
he didn't do anything in the Week 17 matchup.
Matty Flynn threw 6 touchdowns, so that was, golly, that's insane.
Packers are favored by 9 in the game. I mean, if I was a betting man, I'm going to take the points with this. I really am. I
If
think the
if I was a betting man, I would take the Giants. I don't think they're going to win, but I don't think the Packers are going to win by 9. Never underestimate the value of trash points at the end of the game. Never. I won $300 on Alabama versus Mississippi State this year because of trash points. Never underestimate it.
But that's it for the NFC side. I've got the Packers. He does also, and I'm taking the Saints, and he's taking the 49ers.
Yep.
But check back next week, and if you haven't checked, Jeremy and Bryce did a matchup or the AFC matchup earlier, so check the AFC side, and we'll check back with you for the NFC and AFC championships next week.
Yep. Yep. And this week I'll be releasing my Rams draft
And number two,
breakdown.
that's
Yep.
right.
I released my Colts one last week. If you haven't read it, it's on our blogger on Google, and it's also on our Facebook page. I will be releasing what the Rams are looking for in this upcoming draft. As you know, draft is my baby. This is the thing I look forward to. I could care less about the playoffs, Super Bowl, the season. Yeah, it's all fine and dandy, but when the draft comes, that's me all the way. I love it. That's all I do.
For Bryce, I'm Billy. This has been Sports Club.